Welcome to the hello world of AI engineering. Every AI engineer started from this point where they had to make their first LLM API call. And today we're going to learn how to do that using both Gemini and OpenAI. But I'm going to also try and explain things so that you fully understand everything that is happening. The first thing to explain is what an API is. When you talk about an API, currently you might be using platforms like ChatGPT, which is a chatbot. When you put your prompt in here or your query in here, what you're seeing is the UI or the front end. It makes a call to the model itself. The model is sitting on a server somewhere in a data center somewhere that you don't know. Okay. So let's say this is the model and say this is GPT-5 that you're calling. You are able to make a call from ChatGPT to GPT-5 through what is called API. And API means application programming interface. It's an interface that enables us to communicate with this model. Okay, so if you as an AI engineer want to build your own platform, irrespective of what the platform is, say a mobile app, desktop application, an online portal, whatever it is, you're going to be able to also tap into this model's capabilities and leverage it in your own application through the use of the API. And companies like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and all of those other companies make available their model in the form of API. So you need to understand how to make these API calls and how to use them so that you'll be able to integrate them into your own application. Now, to be able to use these APIs, you need what we refer to as an API key. And an API key is just a secret code that these companies give you so that you're able to authenticate with their platform. So it serves more like a password that you use when you're trying to access their platform. And through that, they are able to identify you as the one using it and bill you accordingly. So it's very important for you not to share your API key with anyone. So even in this tutorial, I'm going to make sure I do not show you my API key because anyone who has access to your API key can start using it and raking up costs on your account, which you will end up regretting. So make sure you keep it safe. Now that we know what API key is, how do we get one? Platforms like Google, which is Gemini, you can get it on AI Studio. So you go to aistudio.google.com and you can also get from OpenAI and all the other platforms. OpenAI, I think, is platform.openai.com. But the challenge or the caveat with using that from OpenAI is that you need a credit card to be able to access it. And they would deduct, I think, $5 from it. You can try that of Gemini. I think you are able to get a free API key for testing without having to pay. So to get it, just as I said, you go to aistudio.google.com and you find this place where you have API keys and just click on the create API key button here to enter the name that you want to give it and select a project and associate it with. You can go ahead and create it. So you create it and now you can copy. You see, I have a couple of API keys here, but I do not want to expose them. But you copy one of these code, and if it's the first time you're entering, of course you not see these ones. But when you generate your key, you see it. Then you just click to copy. Once you have the key, and you would have done a similar thing with OpenAI, you just go to their platform and you do that. Once you have gotten it, you should be able to go to the documentation, and in Gemini's own, this API quick start will take you to that documentation where it explains exactly how to go through it. So you can access this model through the API using any programming language of your choice. So in this case, we are using Python. So you click on Python and it asks us to install this package to be able to interact with their model. So this is the package we're going to use. You can copy it. So let's go back to our code base. Now we have explained what API is, how to get it, but in using it in our code base, remember I mentioned that you don't have to expose it. So what's the best way to handle it? we handle these through what we refer to as environment variables. So your computer has an environment where it stores these variables. So you need to add it to that environment. And how we do that is we create a file called .env, and inside the file we make declarations like this. So I would say Gemini API, Gemini underscore API underscore key is equal to, then I provide a value. OpenAI API key is equal to this. These are random digits that I've just written here. They are not the correct. They are not the correct values, okay, because I do not want to expose it. And you should also not expose your key, but you just need to create a .env file and put these two in here. If you have, you can have any one of them, and that's fine. Once you have done that, we want to go ahead and start working on the code. So these are just files that I've created. I'm going to explain, but you can just go ahead and create test.py and all. However, you saw that Google asked us to install a package on, and almost any of the platforms that you're going to be using, you'll be asked to install this same package so that you are able to use it depending on the programming language you are using. But in Python, what we want to avoid, let me explain that. What we want to avoid is installing directly on our computer. So whenever we're installing a package in Python, if you go ahead and install it, it goes directly into your computer. So imagine the version of this is version 1, and this project that I'm doing, say it needs version 1. But tomorrow I'm doing another project with the same package which needs version 2. That means that now I install version 1 and version 2 in the same computer. Then my project will get confused on which of these I am calling. So there's going to be a conflict between them. For that reason, it's always recommended that you create an isolated environment, which we call a virtual environment, for each project that you are going to work on. To be able to create a virtual environment, we need another package in Python. One of such packages is the VENV package. That's the virtual environment package. So we'll just go ahead and install that particular package with a, say it's a module. So the name of the module is VENV. Then we provide the name of our virtual environment. How do you want to call the virtual environment? You can call it anything, but conventionally people like to use VENV as the name. So we'll go ahead and hit VENV, and you see that it has created it right here. Now we have created that isolated environment, but we have not activated it. So if I still go ahead and run any other command, it will do it on my computer itself globally instead of the isolated environment. So we need to activate it. Once we have activated it, you see that instead of seeing just my name here and the identity of the terminal that I'm on, you would rather see the environment here. That shows you that you are within this environment. So we'll go ahead and activate it. To activate it on MacBook, you use the command source. So you're going to execute this script, source it from .env. So .venv, this is the location. Then we go into bin. So bin, then inside bin, we find activate. So you type activate as well, then hit enter. If you were on Windows, it would be slightly different. You don't use the source command on Windows, but Windows, you'd find script. So just open the venv bin script, activate, and run that path on your terminal, and it should activate it for you. Once activated, you see, as I said earlier, we have the venv. This is now showing that we are in this virtual environment. So every other thing we do will go here. I copied the command from Google's page, which is pip install. We are installing Google Gen AI. So I hit enter and install that package. Now that we have that package installed, that is good, we can go ahead and use the package in our code. So in this code, let me explain a few things. I copied this directly from their platform, just tweaked it a bit. So here is exactly what we have. Like you can copy it. When we are loading our environment variables, we have our environment variables in here, right, in the .env file, but it's just in that .env file and our computer doesn't know about it. So we need to find a way, first of all, to expose it to a computer. Once our computer knows about it, then we can get it from our computers environment variable. The way we do that is using the OS package. The OS package will allow us to get it from the OS itself, like from the computer itself, but then to expose it to the computer, to expose the values in this file to the computer, we use the .env as a module. So we need to install that as well. So we do pip install python .env. Make sure you install that. Once that is installed, we can go ahead and use it. So from .env import load.env, that's a command. Then this is coming from the Google's implementation that we saw. So from Google import Gen AI, then load.env, we imported it from here. And now we execute it. What it is doing is just loading the variables from the .env, that is exposing the variables to our computer's environments. Then now we can call the specific environment variable we are looking for with the os.getEnv. And if you're using Gemini, you proceed to say gen AI.client, and all of this is coming. It's not magic, and you don't need to memorize it. If you've not, the more you work with it, the easier you would, it will be easier for you to retain this memory. But if you are starting off and you don't know it, just come here and copy it. So this is where we're getting it from. But the good thing about Gemini is that if you call the environment variable exactly as Gemini underscore API underscore key, then you do not need to declare the API in here. But if you call it any other thing, which you can, depending on the rules that or the rules that the organization you're working with uses, then you have to pass API underscore key is equal to your API key, put the value in here, and that's what we have done. So gen AI dot client API underscore key is equal to Gemini API underscore key. Then the response, so we're going to make a call to the model. So we say client, which is what the objects we got from this initialization, client.models.generate content, and this is specific to Google's Gemini. Then we call the module Gemini 2.5 flash. That's what we want to use. Then the content. So the content is actually the question that we have. In our case, we are asking in one sentence, what is the difference between AI engineer and machine learning engineer? Then print response. So print response.test. And just as I said, there's no magic happening here. Let's go ahead and run this code to see. Python 3 test.py. It might take a few seconds. So let's go and explain that of OpenAI as we wait on it. Okay. It has actually returned AI engineer focused on this and that. Yes. So now we have gotten the response from our first LLM call using Gemini. For OpenAI, this is also pretty similar. We can go to their platform, which is platform.openai.com. Then go to test generation, which is what you want to do. And you see for Python, you can change the language, but for Python, this is the implementation that you have. So let's walk through it. Here we've loaded our environment variable. We've put it or accessed it and assigned it to this variable. Then we initialize a client. It's similar to what we did with the Gemini, but then the approach is different. Each company has their own unique way, and that's why you need to go into your documentation. Then to make a request to a specific model, you say client.responses.create. Then you pass which model are you trying to rate. So Gemini 5 Nano is what we're calling. And here we ask the question using input. So input is equal to this. Then the response that is returned, we call it by response.output underscore test. So we would need to install this package, the OpenAI package. We need to install that just as we installed the Gemini one. Then once you have installed it, you then be able to execute this code and get similar results. So let's see, pip install OpenAI. All right, so now that that is installed, we can go ahead and execute this command, Python 3. The file is test underscore OpenAI. Sorry, test underscore OpenAI. And that also might take us a few seconds. Okay, so it also came with an answer. An AI engineer builds end to end, blah, blah, blah. So that's perfectly what we wanted. We've been able to use the Gemini API to make a call to Gemini 2.5 Flash, and we've been able to use OpenAI's API to make a call to GPT-5 Nano. That's how you make your first call. Congratulations. Go ahead and test these things out yourself. Do not assume that because they are simple, you understand it, you would know it. Try it and also try and figure out where to find what in the documentation, because that is how you learn these things. I hope to see you in the next video.